We are live here with CX National Champ, Lisa Jacobs. You're on Facebook Live, you're on Periscope. What we mean by live is if you type a question right now, we can see it. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
We're here to talk a little bit of the preview about this weekend's CX Nats.
Yes.
But also, there's quite a lot of people that don't know Lisa's story. So I thought it'd be good if we sort of touched on that a little bit. I'll let her explain it. For those of you that don't know, she spent 7 years in academy life, AIS, and then moved to 2010 into the national road team. So, Lisa, I suppose if you start off, how you started in multisport and why you got into cycling and into cyclocross.
Yeah, so I did start off in multisport. So I did duathlon, which is run, bike, run races and some sort of sprint adventure race type stuff. And I found that I was always better at the bike leg. Like, I'd get injured running, but I always really enjoyed the bike leg. And then in 2007, there was a National Talent ID program being run through the Australian Sports Commission and SASI, the South Australian Sports Institute. And I tested and got through that, and that's how I started my cycling career, and that was in 2007. So from that, spent a year or so with SASI, and then spent a season over in Europe with the AIS team, the Australian National Road team, and then spent 5 years, I suppose, with VIS afterwards.
So I suppose, is it because you like the bike leg so much? Because I think Richie Port came from triathlon background.
Yeah.
I don't know if he just liked the bike leg or was good at it, but what sort of made you go, right, this is like, I'm good at it, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I think you kind of know internally what your ceiling is. And in a duathlon race or a multisport race, I definitely hit a ceiling in my running, and I'd get injured a lot, because biomechanically my body's not great. But I always...
That says something different. But, yeah.
but I always noticed in the bike legs, I always consistently did well compared to the other girls, and I knew that what I was doing wasn't the limit. So I was really keen to kind of explore that. So when the opportunity to join the National Talent ID program came up, it was a great opportunity for me, because they gave us excellent coaches, and the coach who I started with in 2007, Donna Race-Linsky, so I worked with her for my entire cycling career, and a lot of other people as well. So it was a fantastic opportunity. It was a real gift, I think, and it came at a time when I was 26, I suppose, and so quite late in life, really. So I never expected to have an elite cycling career, so late in life, and then going through the road, I sort of thought once the road finished that was it as well. I never really expected to have an elite career in cyclocross after that. So yeah, I feel like it's been a wonderful journey.
Okay, the first female national champ, CX. Talk us through that first season, because CX is getting so big at the moment.
Yeah.
It feels like it's up here when compared to sort of road, especially in Melbourne and locally. Talk us through that sort of first season, how you got involved. I mean, you've got some great brands behind you, and we see just 2 weeks ago at Fields of Joy, there was 113 women across all grades, which is brilliantly insane.
Yeah,
if someone said that last year, and then even years back when you won the first, that was such a statement for women in cyclocross. Yeah. There's no way that people would have believed it. So I suppose, how do these women, whether they're in A or maybe they're coming up through like D and C, they're really enjoying it. They might realise that they're really good. They want to take the next level.
Yeah.
Like, do you have any tips for them on how to get sponsored? We know it's an expensive sport. Yeah. It always is. You've loaned out wheels for this weekend and stuff. So is there any tips that you can do that you can give?
Well, I think in terms of getting better, the great thing about cross is that there's, for almost every rider, unless you're Sven-Nys, pretty much, there's not one, there's always going to be an area where you can improve on and work on. And so if you want to get better, you just need to identify what those areas are and work on those. So whether it's technical skills around cross, so mounting, dismounting, whether it's fitness, so making sure you've got the right type of fitness for the course, whether it's just getting out there and racing, hooking up with some of the skills sessions that are being run. So in Melbourne, Dirty Deeds and Fields of Joy run some great women-specific skills clinics, and we've run some in Adelaide, and there's ones going on sort of all up the eastern seaboard. So that's a start for sure. But as far as I guess for women who are competitive, who want to to take that next step and get sponsors and start taking things more seriously. I've been around the sport a long time, and like every other athlete, I've gone through that really natural kind of progression of working, of making sure you're trying to get results and making sure you build those relationships, and now I'm really fortunate to be backed by the best brand, I think the best providers around, so the best providers of wheels and bikes and clothing and drivetrain. So that's taken time. It's not a natural thing, I guess, but but in terms of building relationships, like you can always build a relationship with your local bike shop, and because they're your best ally, they'll teach you how to help fix your bikes, and they'll teach you. Yeah, and we can probably talk to Adelaide as well, because I spend a lot of time training down there. And my skills coach is based down there, and there's a great community. So in Melbourne, look, I think pretty much to start with, anywhere that's nice, flowy single track is great for cross riding. So in Victoria, the forest trails, I spent a lot of time playing around there. We've got the Yarra trails in the heart of Melbourne.
The forest trails down
in the Otways,
yeah.
They're brilliant. I've got my favourite cross loop ever at the moment down there in some of the trails.
Are you willing to give it away? Or?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And in fact, if anyone is keen on going down to Forest, you should just write a question and we'll tee up a time. So Yarra Trails in Melbourne is great. There's a ride that Curve Cycling, who are my wheel sponsor, put on every Wednesday, which is called the Belgie, and that is just a thrash fest for an hour or an hour and a half or so, and that's great cross training, because cross training is all about just being at your limit for 45 minutes or an hour. In Adelaide, there's a purpose-built Fields of Joy course as well out in Essendon. In Adelaide, there's some great trails around the Torrens. So, like the Yarra Trails, I suppose, in Melbourne, there's single track in the Torrens in Adelaide that goes from sort of right up almost in the foothills, right down to the beach. So you can go down to the beach and cut laps of the sand dunes, and those guys who hang out there, the Focus Attacker CX crew, and Chris Youngward, who rides for Nemesis and J Blood Adventures, they spend a lot of time doing drills down there, because you get a lot of sand features in Europe, and that kind of training is perfect.
I suppose that leads to the next question. After racing in Europe, what can sort of organisers here do to make it make the transition a little bit easier? So you come from Australia, where the sport isn't anywhere near as big as, say, over there. Is there any sort of things that you can shout out to anyone over the world? We have people watching from California, and one from New Zealand, one from Ireland last week. Is there anyone that you can say, guys, in your home countries, make them like this, so that we don't have to get there and go, oh my God, what is going on?
It's a real challenge, I think, in Australia to replicate the conditions that you get in Europe, because no matter what you do, you just can't replicate the mud. In European racing...
Well, Dave Morgan did try at Fields of Joy.
he did pretty well.
To replicate
and
the
the Fields of Joy guys have done so well. So before the last World Championships in Zolder, I had a chat to the crew behind Fields of Joy, and I said, would you be open to some course suggestions? And they said, what do you think? I said, I think it would, because the national champs are at Fields of Joy. I said it would be really cool if a national champion was someone who performed on a course that was the same as the world's course. So I feel quite strongly about that. I think, Australia should send a national champion to Worlds that goes well on the kind of course that
so
Worlds
it's well
is.
prepped.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they had a look at the course at Zolder, which was the world champs, and they built the Zolder step and a hill that replicated the world's course this year out in Zolder. So you can't ask for much more than that. That is brilliant. Like, I haven't seen any event organiser around the world do something like that.
Well,
so
knowing Cole and the crew at Fields of Joy doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah,
they would do that.
And you can't ask for better prep than that in the circumstances that we have. So we do have a challenge with conditions with the mud. So in Europe you get this Belgian mud that's really clayey and really sort of thick, and it forms these ruts that we don't really get in Australia. We have really wet, loose mud in Australia. You get these ruts in Belgium that are 33 mils wide, so the width of a tyre, and derailleur deep, because you get thousands of wheels over a course. By the time the elites get to race, these ruts are well entrenched in the best line in the corner. So it's all about, part of the skill is in trusting, like committing to the rut, as they say.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get that kind of training in Australia because we just can't replicate those conditions. But what we're seeing though is a style of racing that Australia is calling its own, and a style that is really similar to what we're seeing out of China and what we're seeing out of North America. And so that means that we're breeding riders now, like the riders who are coming through now, have the potential to perform really well in North America and in China. And it's just trying to replicate, trying to take that next step over to Europe that's going to be hard.
Yeah.
But we have that, like North American riders have the same problem in the sense that it's really hard for them to perform well given their courses on Europe. They just have more opportunities to do UCI races and they've got bigger fields, so they have slightly better sort of odds of doing well than we do at the moment.
Okay.
But,
Scotty, we've got a question in from Scotty and Susie. Scotty, quick one before he ducks off to CX Wednesday. Do you do any running as part of your training in or out of season?
Yeah, absolutely. So the running's a really important part of cross. The running that you do in a cross race, so it's specificity is the answer. So absolutely you do running. You do running in the off season to prepare your body because your body as a cyclist is not really used to running. So if you get straight into running, you can risk injury. During the season, when you're preparing for racing, your running needs to be really explosive. So you're always doing stop-start. So if you think about a cross race, when you do running, you're jumping over barriers or running upstairs. So if you're targeting a specific race where you know there's specific types of running, so in the Zolder World Champs, for example, we knew that there was a hill at about 30% that went up for 15 metres, and there were stairs, and there were barriers. And so the training that you need to do that needs to replicate that. So absolutely, stair running is really important, and sprints like run-throughs are really important. But your sessions don't need to be long.
Yeah.
I had a chat to the DS of Sunweb Napoleon, which is one of the big Belgian teams, and the DS there is the coach is a former world champion in cyclocross. I said to him, how do you train your riders? And they're all full-time riders, that's all they do, they're professionals. And he said, we always do once a week, and we always do track. So that's what he does for his riders all year round.
As in velo?
Yeah, as in sort of
Track Tuesdays do pay off, so that'd be a good little mix. Susie has come in and said, what has been your favourite course and what made it your favourite?
Oh, that's a really good question. Man, that's a hard question because the courses are so different. There's been some great courses in Europe that I have really fond memories of. The Hoogerheide course at World Champs was special because that was my first World Champs at the start of 2014. And I'd prepared, I was talking about specificity training before. I had prepared so well for that course only. So at the time when I decided to go to World Champs, I just won my first national cyclocross title. And my coach said to me, Donna, it was like, oh, have you thought about Worlds? And I was like, I don't want to go and get my ass kicked by a bunch of Euros. I've had enough of that on the road. I said, well, no, have a think. Because, this is something that you're good at. And you know that we've got time. You have 4 months. You could train up and be good at that course. So in 4 months, we worked out. I had a great team. So I had Donna, I had my strength and conditioning coach at BIS, I had my physiologist at BIS, and I had a skills coach, Neil Ross in Adelaide. And so we sort of sat down and we're like, okay, I don't have time to prepare to be a complete rider. I do have time to prepare to go well at one course. And this course is about 3.3 kilometres long. We can get data from YouTube and from course profiles. We can train just to be good at this one course. So I went over to Europe and I couldn't get that much time off work. I could only get 2 weeks. So it was a pretty sort of smash and grab approach. First time racing in Europe. Didn't have much experience at racing on that course, but had prepared so carefully and so strategically, I guess, with all these people around me, that I knew every inch of the course before I'd even arrived there. And so that made that course really special, I guess, not necessarily because of the course itself, but because of the total war game that went on and preparing for it. Yeah.
Okay, Lee's come in and said, what's this running you speak of? Lee, you should check Strava, and all your cycling mates right now are probably doing it because it's freezing outside. I suppose, what's the major difference have you found from riding on the road and considering you did both at such an elite level and this? Like, if you could have your time again, here you go. If you could have your time again, would you have gone all in on CX?
It's a good question. I had such a good time on the road. I loved the teammates that I had at VIS were like a family, and that will never change. I wouldn't give that up for anything. And the experiences I had on the road in Europe were unique. Like, I didn't enjoy all of them, but man, you know, like that, it was a pretty special opportunity. You know, it would be nice, you think sometimes, oh, it'd be nice if I found cyclocross a little bit earlier in my career, and, you know, age won't be such a factor.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, one of the reasons I've enjoyed it so much is that it was also unexpected. If I'd started off in my early 20s as with a you know, a specific goal in my career, my life would be completely different, and I might not have enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
So if I had my time again, I wouldn't change anything. Yeah.
Okay.
But as far as you were talking before about preparation and training and how it differs, like, going from the road to cyclocross, I had to completely change my approach to cycling. So it was like an entirely new sport. So as a road cyclist, I was a tour specialist. So multi-day stage racing. And that's a really different type of training, a 45-minute explosive effort. So a cross race is pretty much like 110-second repeated sprints. Like, that's what a cross race is.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anyone, if anyone knows me as a road rider, they'll know I'm lousy at sprinting. But to completely change the type of rider I was. So, you know, getting in the gym, starting to put on more muscle mass, like try working on my plyometrics and explosive power. Like, it was a completely different, I had to change absolutely everything about me as a rider, and all the technical side as well. So it's a completely different approach from the road to cross, but road does give you a great base.
Okay. Now, Mark has come in. Mark Moss, you've hijacked the final question of the day, but you've taken the time to comment. Any chance of a Johnny Farnham comeback?
Oh, man.
You can answer at the end if you want, but it's up to you.
You know, the reason I retired was because my body was really burnt out, and I had to just bring everything forward 12 months because I needed a really good break. And I've had that break now, and I'm really looking forward to having some fun and racing again. And absolutely,
so, yes.
I'll be racing it, but it won't be a John Farnham style comeback in the sense that
you're not going to quit again and come back and quit and come back.
Well, I don't think, like, I think you can't underestimate how much preparation goes into a cross season. Like, your season for an Australian begins in sort of February with maybe a stint in Europe or at the end of World Champs. You're straight into preparing for your domestic season, and then you're straight into preparing for the overseas season. And combining that with work means that everything that I did was really structured, and I'm actually really enjoying just riding the way I like at the moment, like doing really fun stuff. So I'm absolutely going to be back racing, and I'm absolutely going to be back racing cross because I love it too much. I am actually doing a race in Belgium in November. You heard it here first.
Race in Belgium, November. That's
so
the comeback.
I've been invited to Koppenberg Cross, which is a big race in Belgium, part of the Big Post Bank Trophy Series. And I have a Belgian crew who were my mechanic and my pit crew and my soigneur. And they said, look, Lisa, I was speaking to them a couple of months ago, and they said, oh, look, you know, when you finished in Europe, when you raced World Champs, you didn't know it was going to be your last race, and that's a bit sad. And I was like, oh, well, you know, that's life. He said, no, the way we retire in Belgium is you come and you do a race, you do a couple of laps, and you drink beers, and you have a podium ceremony and flowers. That's how you retire. So I thought that sounded good. Yeah, so I'm going to Belgium in November for a beer and some flowers.
One beer.
Well, we'll see.
Maybe more. Okay, guys, we're going to get on to the CX Nationals. Thank you so much for telling us all about you.
Yeah,
if you do have questions, just comment below. We'll see them in real time, and we can just fling them over to Lisa and ask a few. But I thought, who better to give us the prep on this weekend's CX Champs? It's Saturday the 20th. It's at Adelaide Parklands. If you're around, the first race is 11 a.m, but the features are elite women at 1:45 and elite men at 2:40. All the info is at mtba.asn.au if you need to check it out. It's a pretty open race from what we've sort of seen. Obviously, I'm from the sidelines. You have a far better knowledge of what goes on, who's in there. I thought we'd do the men first and save the women for last for the feature. Reigning champ, do you reckon he can do 2 in a row?
Paul VDP, look, he's going to give it a red hot go, and I think the Adelaide course really suits him. He's a power rider, and he also has this tendency to pull things out of the bag. Like, we know he's gone well. He's going well because he did well at the Vic State Champs on the weekend in San Miranda. The course in Adelaide's going to be slightly different. He's going to be up against it in Chris Yongaward, who is the man to beat.
Form.
Yeah, absolutely.
He won round 3 and 4 back to back and by himself essentially.
Yeah, so it was
ride.
Absolutely, and Daylight was second pretty much. He romped it in, and so if I were having to put bets on it, I'd say it's really hard to go past Chris Yongaward. Chris is also a really seasoned professional. He's been doing this for a long time, and when he targets something, he absolutely goes for it. So we know he's quit his job in construction. He's coaching his new business, J Blood Adventures, and he's training. Like, he is absolutely targeting this. And if you've seen Chris, I don't know if you guys have seen Chris Yongaward ride a bike, but it is amazing to watch. Like, he's born for cyclocross.
And he just won the state champs.
He
South
did.
Australia on the weekend, which is not, even though he's in great form, it's pretty hard because that Focus Attacker team, they really have had a tremendous year.
Yeah.
They just have sort of not consistently got that top. They've got their second, third, and fourth steps just so wrapped up. Most of them are from Adelaide, apart from Chris Aiken, who's New South Wales. They got they got second, third, and fourth on the weekend. They filled up quite a bit of the podium, I know, over there. If they band together as a team, we know that there's not many that look better than Chris on a bike, from my humble opinion. If they band together and race, with Mark Chadwick and stuff, and Sean Lewis, if they band together, can they sort of team up on Chris and maybe isolate him to take the win?
Well, who knows? Anything could happen in cross. They have an exceptionally strong team. So Chris Aiken, Tom Chapman, Sean Lewis is back from injury and back in form. Those guys, they are some of the best riders that we've got in Australia. If they keep attacking Chris, potentially. Chris could also have a mechanical. Like, one of the things about cyclocross is that it's not over until you cross the finish line. You could, have a flat or a mechanical that ends your race. So, if anyone's going to do it, I think the Fit Focus Attacker boys are going to do it. Gary Milburn's also, don't discount him.
Speaking of acrobatics, I was going to the Olympics after Fields of Joy. He flipped over the front bar, I think, on corner 2.
He's had some bad luck. But, Gary's meticulous in his preparation, and so you can bet your house on him having absolutely glued, perfectly wheels come tubs come Saturday.
After rolling one at Fields of Joy. Have you seen that footage? Race footage where he rolled it. But he does have insane prep. I did walk past the map tent at Fields of Joy, and they had Doughboys donuts, trays of them, and I don't think Gary even looked at it. I smelled them coming to the parking lot, but Gary didn't seem to budge at all. Okay, a couple of others. Paul Redenbach. Season. He's definitely been consistent.
He's in form too.
Obviously, Chris's teammate. You'd suspect that he'd probably ride for Chris. Am I right in saying that, or is that not the way it works?
Well, cyclocross is a little bit tricky in that you're not technically supposed to be riding for.
Okay, so he's not riding then.
But it's at the same time, there's certain, you've got to be pragmatic about it. So if your teammate's up the road and you're in a break, sort of a little group of 2, you're not going to be doing work, right? But you're not.
You can't block or.
Exactly, it's an individual race.
Okay.
So, but having said that, if Paul's in a situation where something he can do will help Chris, and vice versa, I'm sure they'll do it. Paul's in great form. There was a sprint finish on the Vic State titles, and with Paul coming in close second, Paul Redenbach coming in close second to Paul Vanderpool. So, that says a lot about Paul Redenbach's form, and he's also a professional. He's been to world champs. He knows what he's doing on a bike. So don't discount him. He is in the form of his life. And
it is running through the family. His daughter Mads saw her lining up for a race on the weekend. So maybe there might be some lineage to sort of come. Julia Massey, thanks for commenting. If you have a question, just feel free to add it, guys. Just don't hesitate to ask whatever questions you want. If you disagree with us, you can disagree with me. I'm probably wrong. If you want to ask Lisa a question, just fling it in. If you're got any questions about CX in general, just make sure you do it. Ben Walkerton is another one.
So he's
Under 23.
Yeah, he's one of the young guns, and he's been going so well this year against the elites. It's been so good to see him race, and some of the other juniors as well. So Noah Barrow is going to go really well.
Yep.
He hasn't been on the scene down in Victoria so much until the national rounds just this weekend just gone. He did really well. Nick Smith is going really well. It's going to be a really exciting race in the 23s.
What about someone like Beach Albany? He's a Queensland champ.
Absolutely. Look, it's going to be on. I'm just so excited about Saturday. I can't tell you how exciting it's going to be.
Okay, there's another one that we have to mention. I think is probably I watched him race a few years now. He's an ex-national champ. He has one of the best moustaches that you've seen going around at the moment. A bit of Silver Fox George Clooney in it. Albie.
Yeah.
Can he get up again? He's
got
the pedigree. He's got, and I don't think many people expected a few years ago to him to get in the break at Road Nationals.
Yep.
And he more than pulled his weight in that little manoeuvre. Do you reckon he can win it again?
Look, Albie's my teammate on Rafa Focus, so we're a team of two. And so I will back him every step of the way. He's also the crowd favourite.
He is. Yep.
He's such a gentleman of the sport, and he is so good. He is just such a good rider. He's had some injury issues this season, which I think has disrupted his preparation. So he's going to be up against it. But don't discount him. He's won it before. He's won it before when people didn't expect him to. So he's probably pretty happy to be under the radar.
Okay, podium. My tip for podium, purely because they're all MCL members, is Paul, Scott Rattino, Jules Spiller in any order. I don't mind. That's totally biased. I have no idea. Your top three?
For elites male?
Yep.
I would say Chris Yongwood. I would say second would be Paul van der Vleug. So on the reverse of last year. And then third, I think there's going to be one of the attacker boys. I think one of the focus attacker boys, probably Chris Aitken, would be my pick coming in on third.
Any one of those three would be more than deserved winners, I would think.
Absolutely, yeah. And one of the great things about Cross is that everyone is very friendly. I'd be really happy to see any of those guys wearing the national jersey. They'd be equally deserving.
Okay. So it is at Adelaide Parklands Saturday. Get down and cheer on. Now on to the good stuff, the women.
Yeah.
I have a list that I have made. It's longer than the men, and all of these women on here. We don't have access to the start list because it gets released tomorrow. I think entries close tonight at 11:59. If you're getting inspired by this, go and enter. It's not just elite. There's a whole lot of different grades that you can race. It's cheap to fly to Adelaide or drive. Okay, let's touch on. We'll go from the top. Naomi Williams, round 3 and 4 winner.
Yep.
The round 3 win was pretty convincing.
Oh yeah.
That was daylight. She got both hands in the air.
Yep.
Fantastic photos coming through.
Yep.
How do you think Naomi will go?
Yeah, look, I think what we've seen this year is some great depth in the women's racing. And I've got a lot of enjoyment from seeing Ren, so Naomi Williams, and Beck Locke, and now Peter Mullins come and join. And I'm really sorry that it's come this year and not last year, because it would have been great to race against those girls. Those three, in my mind, I think are the standouts. I would also add Mel Ansett as a dark horse to the list.
Don't take all my list before you
sorry.
go for it. No, go for it, yeah.
But I think Ren's certainly in great form. She's a professional. She's come from the road as well. She knows how to prepare. Her wins last weekend were really convincing. Two weekends ago in the national rounds.
Yep.
And I think on a course that everyone expected Peter Mullins to rock up and romp at home, it was Ren who stepped up and romped at home by a huge margin. So she's in great form. She's going to go really well this weekend. I wouldn't discount Peter at all. Beck Locke also, who won the big champs on the weekend. Yep. She won over Peter as well. So both of those two girls, who are both riding for Team Willie Locke, have both got victories over Peter, who I think has a big target on her back. Peter's targeted this national champ. She made quite a late decision to race. But Peter Mullins is the Marianne Vos of Australia. There is nothing that girl cannot do.
That's right. Under 23 road, road,
elite road,
track,
mountain
mountain
biking,
bike,
marathon mountain biking. She's won something like 8 national titles, and I think the only titles she hasn't won are like the downhill mountain biking and cyclocross for sure. So she'll be in the hunt for that, and she's going to go well. But I'm not sure if she's actually going to win this weekend. So I'm really excited.
Okay, let's go. Melissa Ansett. She had a great race on the weekend.
She did, yeah. Mel is a great technical rider. She's one of the most gifted and naturally talented technical mountain bikers in the women's scene. She performs really well when we have a hilly course or when we have a really technical course. And I think in Sam Miranda last weekend when she won, it was quite a technical course that suited her strengths. The challenge that Mel's going to have is that Adelaide's a power course. It's going to suit a bigger rider. And, you know, Mel's in great form. She's coming into really good form, which we saw from last weekend. She is a great person. I love her to bits. And she's podiumed twice at National CX Champs before. So she knows what she's doing. This might be her year. But I'd you know, to win in Adelaide, she'd need to pull out some serious watts. And up against those other 3 girls, I think she's gonna be pretty challenged.
Okay, April. She's had some great races. She raced really well. I saw at Fields of Joy. She was always there, but sort of Ren just ended up being a little bit too strong.
Yep.
April just looked like there was just a little bit of a gap that she just couldn't. That just sort of slipped at some point in the race. But gee, she looked strong. Like, you know, she just always is there. And I think on her day she could probably nick straight up there. I don't think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, April last time Cyclocross Nationals were held in Adelaide, which is 2 years ago now.
Yep.
She came third in a sprint finish with Terry Rhodes, who's also, I think, one to watch. April is a great power rider, and I think last season she didn't race so much, and it's been really good seeing her come back and racing. She's got a little baby now, so she's got some responsibilities at home. She's not going to get as much time. Sleep deprived, no doubt. Yeah. Not going to get as much time as she wants to train. So it's been good. She's developed really well over the season. I haven't seen her race for a couple of weeks now. It would be really good to see if she's managed to string together a couple of really solid weeks and she comes out swinging, because that course really suits her.
Okay, you touched on Terry. She won the state champs on the weekend in South Australia.
Yep.
And who was second? Jenny McPherson.
Yeah.
Now, J-Mac, the Honey Badger. She comes from road. She's an insane power rider. How do you reckon she'll go at this weekend? Is she without discounting her? Can she win?
Well, Jenny Mac's going to go into the competition as probably the dark horse of the event, because she hasn't raced the national series to my knowledge, and she's been over in Europe doing doing secret training, and so, you know, maybe that's what she's been doing. Maybe she's been training up a storm.
Yeah,
there we go. You heard it here first. Jenny Mac.
Well, she didn't hide it on Instagram, putting up all her photos. Guys, we're going for some more questions. John Groves. John, I can't show you, but you're my dark horse. Look, it doesn't say dark horse.
Oh my
John
goodness,
Groves.
Great, mate.
Grove just finished Ergo, tuned in, bring on race day. Blake, what about Kadri? Could she be anything that she's
who's that?
Is it Kadri Polmans? Oh, that's that. She raced Fields of Joy and was fantastic. I reckon Blake, that she's probably in with a chance. Lyndon is next up. She's one of the new on the scene.
Sorry, I don't know Kadri.
That's okay. There's more incentive for you to win.
Win!
You know, just take the jersey.
And then we can meet.
Just take it.
Yeah, it'll be great. We'll have a jersey waiting for you.
Before we continue with the women, Lyndon, as in, hi Lisa, any chance of mountain bike cameo?
Mountain bike? Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I love mountain biking, and I have to say though that I've been heading down to the Forest Trails with my boyfriend the last few weeks, and we take cross bikes rather than mountain bikes now, because the trails are so good for cross bikes.
Too easy, you reckon?
No, far, like, I mean, God, no. But just so much fun playing on a cross bike, and I feel so at home on a cross bike that the last few mountain bike races I've done, the organisers have been kind enough to overlook the fact that I've been riding a cross bike on them. Because I find it just much more enjoyable, and I tend to ride better than on a mountain bike. But yeah, absolutely, I'm looking forward to doing some mountain bike events. There's some good ones coming up.
Okay, Nick Rhodes. Nick, I presume that you're friends with Greg Thorne. What about the expert men that Greg Thorne is flying right now? Greg should be racing elite men. I will write a personal letter to Mountain Bike Australia saying he's sandbagging if he doesn't. Penny Hoskin or one of the other girls? Is there anyone who's sort of... is there anyone from sort of left field that you've looked at and said, may not win it this year, but when you compare last year, the year before, the leaps and bounds that they've come forward in, is there anyone that you say that is a potential future champ?
Yeah, look, we've got some great young girls coming through. It says a lot for the future of the sport. To be honest, I have to say I'm just frothing at the prospect of the crowd at the top of the pointy end of the women's elite racing. So I've been a bit distracted, and that's what I've been focused on.
Just eyeing off the competition for next year.
That's it. It's just we've got so many good elite women who are there. At the moment, there's no room, I think, for some of the younger girls. To come. But it is exciting. If we haven't mentioned your name, I do apologise. But if you ever needed motivation to come and win this weekend, there it is. We're just looking at the top. Okay. And can I just also say the first national cross champs that I won, someone did a course preview. The MTBA did a course preview just beforehand, and they named 5 riders, 5 women to watch, and I wasn't even in the list. Like I wasn't even. So it's great being an underdog. It's great if we haven't mentioned your name, you're in luck.
Bang. Okay. Tough time podium. Who is it? 1, 2, 3.
Oh man. Oh, this. It's a really tough one because I think between Beck, Locke, Naomi Williams, and Peter Mullins, that's the podium. But the order is the tricky thing. I actually think that Beck might have this one. I think the course is going to suit her. I think Peter's going to come second, and I think Ren might come third.
Okay. Nay, Beck, you know I love you, but I can't pick the same podium, so I'm not going to. I'm going to go J-Mac first, Ansett second, April 3rd.
Yes.
We may as well mix it up. I think I do agree that that it will be a power course. Yeah. Okay, finally, to wrap it up, thank you so much for everyone tuning in. Oh, hold on, Martine Taylor, favourite tyres you use? Brand, tread, and why?
Yeah, I can totally name it. So FMB, who I'm very fortunate to have as a sponsor, they make beautiful handmade tubular tyres. They run 3 treads, so they run a super mud, a slalom, which is like an intermediate tread, and a file tread, which is fast and furious. So the slalom does everything. I love it. And you can run really low PSI. It's like riding on velvet. I feel like a completely different rider when I ride on FMBs. So that's, FMB slaloms, get on it.
Okay. I'm going to do this up only because Lee DeLuca asked me to have 10 questions and I actually forgot to put together any questions. So off the top of my head, these will form from now on every guest the 5 questions. Okay, favourite place to ride ever in the world?
Adelaide.
Good on Adelaide. Favourite food?
Steak sandwich. Anything salty?
Favourite band?
Hilltop Hoods.
Hilltop. Adelaide through and through. Andy's nodding his head. You guys don't know what you're on about. Okay. Best rider that you've ever ridden with? That's someone that you've ridden with and gone, I need to pinch myself.
Marina Boss.
That's a pretty good one. And what's that 4th question? 5th question can be... What do you want your 5th question to be? Wait, hold on. Will you win another one of these?
I would love to, but I'm having so much fun. If
it's a yes. It's a yes.
I can't say what the future holds. I think whoever has this jersey next is going to have earned it. Maybe I can't really say whether I'll come back and be able to perform at the same sort of standard as I have done in the past. But you never say never, right?
That's it. It's Lisa Jacobs. Thanks so much for your time. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. This will stay on Facebook. It will stay on Periscope. If you want to comment afterwards, Lisa, if she gets a spare 5 minutes on the flight, might reply. So make sure you comment any questions that you have. We are back on Friday. We have KB, Kirsty Baxter, back, who's taken many photos of you throughout your career. Right. She'll be in. She is well again. We'll be kicking that off from 4:30 on Friday. And we've got a bit of a different setup, thanks to Stillwell Motor Group. I suppose you want to say thanks to Rafa, Focus,
Absolutely, yeah.
Love it.
Rafa and Focus, Curve, Cycling, SRAM, FMB, Cask, and a lot of people, I guess, who have been my A team over the years. So my coach Donna Ray Selinsky, my physiologist Nick Owen, my strength and conditioning coach Harry Brennan, all from the VIS, and my skills coach Neil Ross, and also my right hand man for many years Paul Larkin. So those guys made me the rider that I was. So
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much for joining in. We'll see you on Friday. Thank you. Thanks so much.
no worries. That was fun. I can't believe we missed